It's 6 a.m. when your phone buzzes. One message. No sender, no explanation, just a bank balance and a single sentence. $1 trillion is now sitting in an account registered to your name. You have 24 hours to spend all of it. Whatever is left at 6 a.m. tomorrow disappears, and so does everything you bought with it, and you back to your miserable broke life. You laugh, because what else do? You open the banking app and the number is right there. 12 zeros. More money than most countries earn in a year attached to your name, with a little countdown clock ticking in the corner. You're freaking out. No, you take a breath. The rules load underneath. No donations, no gifts, no handing it to a friend to hold for you. Every single dollar has to leave in exchange for something real, a thing, a service, an asset you legally own by the time the clock hits zero. Simple. How hard could it be to spend money? Let's do the math you're about to be doing in your head all day. $1 trillion in 24 hours is about $41 billion an hour. That's $694 million a minute. That's roughly $11.5 million every single second, including the seconds where you're blinking, thinking, or quietly beginning to panic. To win this, you cannot stop. Not to eat, not to sleep, not even to celebrate. The moment you pause, the clock keeps spending your time even when you've stopped spending the money. By 6:08 a.m., there's a man in a gray suit at your door. He says he's your liaison. He has a tablet, a very calm voice, and the unmistakable energy of someone who has watched people fail at this exact thing before. He is going to stand near you for the next 24 hours. By hour 4, you'll have stopped offering him coffee. By hour 9, you'll forget his name entirely. Let's call him Gary. First instinct, property. It's always property. You start pointing at the most expensive things you can picture. A penthouse in Manhattan, a villa on Lake Como, a ranch in Montana roughly the size of a small European country. You're saying yes to everything, and the agents are saying yes right back, instantly. Because here's the first thing you learn about having $1 trillion. It isn't the number. It's the ring count. Everyone answers on the first ring. And then you hit your first wall, and it is not the one you expected. It isn't money. It's paperwork. Every property needs a contract. Every contract needs a signature. A wire, a confirmation that the wire arrived, even moving at insane speed. Even with Gary's team pre-filling every form, each purchase quietly eats minutes. You buy 40 houses in the first hour and feel like a god. Then you glance at the balance. You've spent $8 billion. You have $992 billion to go, and you've already burned 1/24 of your entire life's deadline. Gary doesn't say anything. Gary doesn't have to. So you speed up. Cars, every hypercar in every showroom, watches. A dealer in Geneva is reading a list down the phone, and you're saying yes before he finishes each line. Jets. 3 of them, then 9, then a broker in Dubai offers you an entire fleet, and you take the fleet. A yacht. Another yacht, a third yacht, frankly, for the first 2 yachts to look at. And somewhere around your 5th private island, a strange thing happens to your brain. You stop feeling it. The numbers have gotten so large, they've gone abstract, like a word you've repeated until it stops sounding real. A $200 million painting and a $14 sandwich now register as roughly the same transaction, which is a sentence I would genuinely like you to sit with for a second. You buy the painting. You do not have time for the sandwich. By now, you technically employ several thousand people you have never met. Yacht crews, pilots, groundskeepers for houses you will never once set foot in. None of them know they work for you yet. That is a problem for a future version of you who exists tomorrow. This version of you has 14 hours left and a balance that simply refuses to go down fast enough. 5 hours in, you've been spending like a lunatic, barely breathing between purchases, and you have moved $60 billion. 6%. The clock says 19 hours, and for the first time, a cold little thought walks in and sits down. You might actually lose this. Here is the problem nobody warned you about. Buying things one at a time has a speed limit, and that speed limit has nothing to do with your enthusiasm. It's the plumbing. Money does not teleport. It moves through banks, and banks move it through a system with rules. And those rules were written by people who very much did not have you in mind, or who, possibly, had exactly you in mind. Wires get flagged. A compliance desk calls to verify unusual activity. One bank freezes a transaction for review and sincerely apologizes for the inconvenience. You are being slowed down by the financial equivalent of a polite speed bump. while $11.5 million a second quietly evaporates off your deadline. So you change strategy. You stop buying things and you start buying the companies that make the things. Whole businesses. You put cash offers on a hotel chain, a car manufacturer, a football club, an airline. Each one moves billions in a single signature. And for about an hour, the strategy actually works. The balance is dropping. Gary almost looks impressed. Then commodities. You tell a trading desk you want $50 billion of gold, physical, in bars. There's a long pause on the line. Then a very careful voice explains that 50 billion is a meaningful chunk of the entire planet's annual gold supply. And the instant you start buying it, the price is going to move. It moves. It climbs 8% while your own order is still executing, which means every bar costs more than the one before it, because you are the reason gold is going up. Congratulations. You have made yourself more expensive. With the clock bleeding out, you try something genuinely audacious. You try to buy a country's debt. There's a nation carrying a few $100 billion in loans, and you offer to clear all of it in cash today, in exchange for a generous little arrangement on the side. The government is interested. Governments are always interested. And then, within the hour, other governments are on the phone, not to negotiate, but to explain to you, very politely, that this is simply not a thing that is going to happen. Money can buy a country's attention. It cannot buy a country. Sovereignty, it turns out, is one of those things with no price tag, and you have just spent 40 irreplaceable minutes learning that the hard way. You're running out of clock, so you take the biggest swing you can think of. You'll buy the stock market. Not a stock, the market. You tell your team to start buying controlling stakes in the largest companies on Earth, all at once, as fast as the orders will fill. The first 50 billion vanishes cleanly. The next 50 does not, because every trading algorithm on the planet is staring at the same screen, and every one of them has noticed the same thing. Somebody is buying everything, and they are not stopping. Prices spike. You're not buying the market anymore. You're becoming it. And the more you spend, the less you get, because your own buying is shoving the price up faster than you can possibly keep pace with. Then a circuit breaker trips. Trading halts. 15 minutes. 15 minutes you absolutely do not have, during which you are physically not allowed to spend a single cent. You sit and watch the clock run with your hands tied behind your back. When it reopens, a regulator has quietly slipped a per-account limit into the rules. And somewhere across 6 continents, very serious people are on a call using a word that should worry you far more than illegal. The word is systemic. You're not breaking the law, you're breaking the machine. And the machine, it turns out, employs an enormous number of people whose entire job is to slow down anyone moving as fast as you are. It's 3 a.m. now. You haven't eaten, you haven't sat down. Gary, to his eternal credit, is still standing. And the world, you discover, is mostly asleep. Banks are closed. Entire markets are dark and will not reopen before your clock runs out. The handful of humans on Earth who could personally authorize the enormous transfers you still need are not answering their phones at 3 a.m., $1 trillion or not, because it turns out some things genuinely cannot be bought, and one of them is a tired banker's full night of sleep. You buy a $14 sandwich from the one place still open. It is, without question, the best money you've spent all day. It does not move the needle even slightly. 6 a.m. The clock hits 0. You spent a little over $400 billion, which is, to be completely clear, a deranged amount of money, more than most people could spend in 100 lifetimes if they tried. And it wasn't enough. You're handing back nearly $600 billion you simply could not get rid of. Not because you ran out of ideas, because you ran out of clock. And here's the part that stays with you. The money was never the hard part. You had more than enough money. What you didn't have was time, and throughput, and a financial system willing to move at the speed of one extremely impatient person. Every wall you slammed into today, the wires, the compliance holds, the circuit breakers, the closed banks, that quiet little word systemic, none of them were accidents. They are the speed limits. They were built on purpose by people who understood, long before you came along, that the real danger was never somebody having too much money. It was somebody able to move it too fast, which is the quiet secret of the richest people alive. Their fortunes aren't sitting in a checking account waiting to be spent. They're locked inside companies and property and assets that take years, not hours, to turn back into actual cash. Not because they want it that way, because the world is built so that no one, not even a trillionaire, can move that fast. Oh, and the account? While you spent 24 hours sprinting around the planet, it quietly earned about $130 million in interest. You didn't have time to spend that either. It's 6:01 a.m. The gray suit is gone. The clock is gone. And for the first time in an entire day, you sit down and slowly, finally, you eat the rest of the sandwich.